Welcome back to our channel, World of Coins. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare $quarter coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them because it could make you a millionaire overnight. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Thanks all of you. My channel got 1,000 subscribers. I thank all of my friends and followers. I am very thankful to you for this kindness. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we have something truly special for you, something that ties together 2 centuries of American history, the United States $quarter from 1776 to 1976. This coin, released in celebration of the nation's bicentennial, is a stunning blend of historical significance, remarkable design, and tremendous value. Stick with us as we take a deep dive into the history, the story behind its creation, the symbolism it carries, and of course, the incredible value this coin holds today. The year 1976 marked the 200th anniversary of the United States, a monumental milestone for a young nation that had grown from a colony into a global powerhouse. The U.S. government decided to commemorate this occasion with special coinage that would forever link the past with the present. The U.S. $quarter, in particular, underwent a design transformation to mark the event. But before we dive into that, let's rewind a bit and understand the significance of the quarter itself. The quarter has been a part of American currency since 1796, but in 1976, the coin underwent a unique redesign to celebrate the bicentennial. It wasn't just a change in appearance, it was a statement about the nation's enduring values and rich history. For coin collectors and history buffs alike, the 1776 to 1976 $quarter has become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatics. The design of the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter was crafted with great care and intention. On the reverse side, we find the most significant change, a depiction of the colonial drummer. This was a powerful image, symbolizing the early days of the American Revolution, and it captured the spirit of patriotism and defiance that characterized the birth of the United States. The image shows a drummer in full regalia, arms raised in action, as if rallying the troops for the fight for independence. This dramatic depiction of the drummer was created by artist Jack L. Ahr, and it replaced the traditional eagle design that had been featured on the reverse of the quarter since 1932. In place of the eagle, the drummer was a nod to the courage and sacrifices of the men and women who fought in the American Revolution. Above the image, the coin reads, E pluribus unum, the nation's motto, meaning, out of many, one, reinforcing the unity and strength of the country. On the obverse side of the coin, the portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, remained unchanged. Washington, as the first president and a symbol of the nation's founding ideals, was a fitting tribute to the country's leadership and values. The obverse also carries the dates 1776 and 1976, clearly marking the occasion of the bicentennial celebration. While the design is certainly eye-catching, there's more to this coin than just its appearance. The United States Mint struck these quarters with the intention of both honoring the nation's past and creating a coin that would be both practical for everyday use and significant for collectors. The special design was only intended for a limited time, making these bicentennial quarters even more valuable in the eyes of coin collectors. At the time of its release, the U.S. Mint produced over 1.6 billion bicentennial quarters to meet the demand for this commemorative coinage. Despite the high mintage numbers, the rarity and value of these coins have grown over time, especially when you find one in pristine, uncirculated condition. Coins that have been well preserved are far rarer and far more valuable than those that have been subjected to years of circulation. For collectors, the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter holds particular appeal due to its historical significance. This coin was a symbol of national pride during the bicentennial celebrations, and it was one of the few times in American history that the design of a regular issue coin was altered to commemorate such an important anniversary. The bicentennial quarter is not just a coin, it's a piece of history, linking the United States founding with the celebrations of its 200th birthday. But rarity and condition are key factors in determining the value of these quarters. Many of the coins in circulation today are worn, scratched, or otherwise damaged due to years of use. However, finding a quarter in mint condition, especially one that has been preserved in a way that protects it from wear and tear, can drastically increase its value. A coin that has been carefully stored in protective cases or kept in uncirculated rolls has the potential to be worth far more than its face value. Additionally, while the majority of the bicentennial quarters are standard coins, there are a few that feature unique characteristics or errors that make them even more valuable. These error coins, such as those with minting mistakes, unusual die marks, or misalignments, are highly sought after by collectors. If you happen to own a coin with one of these errors, it could add a significant amount to its value. Now, you might be wondering, what is the value of a 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter today? Well, the answer depends on several factors, such as the coin's condition, whether it's a regular issue or a proof coin, and whether it has any unique characteristics or errors. In general, most circulated bicentennial quarters are worth only a few dollars above their face value. However, coins in uncirculated or proof condition can fetch much higher prices than in fact. If you have an uncirculated 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter in perfect condition, you might be sitting on a small fortune. Coins with pristine, mint-like quality have been known to sell for prices in the thousands. And if you happen to have one of the rarer error varieties, the value could rise even higher, but the most impressive figure for this coin is when it comes to its highest value examples. If you have a bicentennial quarter that is in mint condition, especially one with a notable minting error or rare feature, you could be looking at a value of up to $58,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single coin, worth just 25 cents when it was first released, could be worth an astounding $58,000 today, depending on its condition and rarity. So, if you have a stash of coins from 1976, or if you come across one of these coins in your collection, be sure to check its condition carefully. It could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just someone with a casual interest in coins, the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter is a piece of American history that continues to captivate collectors and history enthusiasts alike. Thank you for joining us today as we explored the fascinating world of the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future deep dives into rare and valuable coins. Top 2, we're diving into the fascinating world of one of the most iconic coins in U.S. history, the 1965 United States quarter dollar. This coin is far more than just a piece of currency, it's a symbol of a pivotal moment in American history and a true treasure for collectors. If you think this quarter is just like any other, think again. Stick with us as we unravel its intriguing backstory, explore its design and minting process, and reveal just how valuable this coin could be in today's market. To fully appreciate the significance of the 1965 quarter, we need to first step back into the 1960s, a decade that was filled with political, social, and economic change. The United States was in the midst of several challenges, both domestically and abroad. Domestically, the country was grappling with the civil rights movement, a growing counterculture, and increasing discontent over the Vietnam War. On the economic front, there was rising inflation and a growing concern about the value of the U.S. dollar. Internationally, the U.S. was dealing with the pressures of the Cold War. It was during this time of turmoil and transition that the U.S. Mint made a monumental decision that would forever change the course of American coinage. In 1965, the U.S. government, facing a silver shortage and the rising costs of minting coins, decided to remove silver from the quarter, along with the half-dollar and the dime, and replace it with a copper-nickel alloy. The result was the 1965 quarter, the first time since the 19th century that the quarter was minted without silver. This change was driven by the need to curb inflation and ensure the continued stability of the country's coinage. Now, let's take a closer look at the design of the 1965 quarter. Despite the significant change in material, the coin's design remained relatively unchanged from its previous versions. On the obverse, we see the familiar image of George Washington, the first president of the United States. This iconic portrait, created by sculptor John Flanagan, had been used on U.S. quarters since 1932, and it remains one of the most recognizable images in American coinage history. Washington's dignified and steadfast image symbolized the country's unity and commitment to its founding principles. On the reverse side of the coin, we find the traditional eagle, which had been the standard design for many U.S. coins. The eagle, with its wings spread wide, was meant to symbolize freedom and strength, core values that resonate deeply with the American spirit. However, the eagle's design on the 1965 quarter was a bit different from the previous versions. In 1965, due to the shortage of silver, the reverse was slightly modified to feature a less intricate, more simplified rendition of the eagle. While this was a minor design change, it was one of the key aspects that set the 1965 quarter apart from its predecessors. Now, let's talk about the minting process of the 1965 quarter and why it's so significant. As mentioned earlier, the removal of silver and the introduction of a copper-nickel alloy marked a major shift in the production of U.S. coinage. The mint began using this new composition not only to save money but also to ensure that there was enough material available to meet the growing demand for coins in circulation. Over 1.8 billion 1965 quarters were minted that year, which was an enormous number, and the majority of them went into general circulation. But while the vast majority of these quarters were produced in large quantities and circulated widely, some coins were set aside by collectors who understood that these quarters might become rare and valuable over time. Most 1965 quarters that were used in everyday transactions have been worn down by years of handling and circulation, but there are still some pristine examples out there. These well-preserved coins are highly sought after by collectors, who value them for their historical significance and unique place in American coinage. The 1965 quarter, like other coins from this period, is part of a fascinating story about the changing nature of U.S. currency. In many ways, it marks the end of an era of silver coinage and the beginning of a new chapter in American minting. This transition was driven by economic factors but also reflected the country's desire to modernize its coinage in a way that was practical and sustainable for the future. Over the years, the 1965 quarter has gained a special place in the hearts of coin collectors. While the coin itself isn't made of silver, its historical importance and unique role in American coinage have made it an attractive piece for those who appreciate the story behind the metal. Collectors are particularly drawn to the 1965 quarter because it represents a rare moment in time when U.S. currency was undergoing a significant transformation. Despite the high mintage numbers, there are still certain variations and qualities of the 1965 quarter that make it especially valuable to collectors. For example, some 1965 quarters were struck with slight variations in the design or had errors during the minting process, making them even rarer and more valuable. These error coins, such as those with double die strikes, off-center strikes, or other irregularities, can be worth far more than their standard counterparts. Error coins are often considered one-of-a-kind treasures, and finding one can make any collection more valuable, but the true value of the 1965 quarter lies in its pristine condition. As with any coin, the better the condition, the higher the value. Quarters that were well preserved and kept in mint condition are the ones that are highly prized by collectors. Coins that were carefully stored away, protected from circulation and the wear and tear that comes with it, are rare and can command impressive prices. Some of these coins, particularly those in perfect condition, have been known to fetch prices far higher than the average coin. So, you may be wondering, what is the value of the 1965 quarter today? Well, the value can vary depending on factors like the coin's condition, rarity, and any unique features. Circulated coins are generally worth just a few dollars above face value, but uncirculated or proof versions can be worth significantly more. Some 1965 quarters, especially those with minting errors or in perfect condition, can fetch impressive sums. For the rarest of the rare, those quarters in flawless condition or with unique error characteristics, prices can soar. A single 1965 quarter, in exceptional condition or with a rare minting mistake, could easily fetch as much as $64,000. That's right, a coin that originally had a value of just 25 cents could now be worth a staggering $64,000 if it's in the right condition. So, if you have a 1965 quarter sitting in your collection or if you happen to come across one, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. The value of this coin has only increased over time, and for collectors, it represents a fascinating chapter in the story of American currency. Whether you're an experienced numismatist or just getting started, the 1965 quarter is a piece of history that could hold surprising value. Top 3, we have an exciting story to share about a coin that may look like any other on the surface, but in reality, it holds incredible value and historical significance: the United States quarter dollar from 1972. If you're a coin enthusiast or just someone curious about rare treasures, stick around because this coin might just surprise you. To understand why the 1972 quarter is so special, we first need to take a look at the world in which it was created. The early 1970s were a time of change for the United States, politically, socially, and economically. The country was still feeling the effects of the tumultuous 1960s, which had seen massive civil rights movements, the escalation of the Vietnam War, and significant shifts in social norms. The economic landscape was also shifting, with inflation rising and concerns about the future of the US dollar. In the midst of these social and political changes, the US Mint was focused on updating and maintaining the nation's coinage. The quarter, which had been in circulation for more than 200 years, was evolving in its own right, but 1972 would mark a significant year in the coin's history. The 1972 quarter was part of the ongoing series that featured George Washington's profile on the obverse, but there were a few noteworthy aspects about this particular coin that set it apart from its predecessors. First, let's take a moment to examine the design of the 1972 quarter. On the obverse side, as with many quarters of this period, we see the familiar and dignified portrait of George Washington. This design, created by sculptor John Flanagan, had been used on quarters since 1932 and remains one of the most enduring and recognizable images in U.S. coinage. Washington's face, set against the backdrop of the coin's simple yet elegant lines, symbolizes the strength, stability, and unity of the United States, a fitting tribute to the country's first president. The reverse side of the 1972 quarter, however, is where things get more interesting. The reverse design features the American bald eagle, a symbol of freedom and strength, which had been the hallmark of U.S. coins for many years. However, the 1972 quarter had some subtle changes, as the mint was constantly refining the dies used for minting. These small adjustments may not be immediately noticeable to the average eye, but they are key to understanding why the 1972 quarter is considered unique. Point 1 of the key changes in the 1972 quarter involved the minting process itself. The 1972 coin saw a dramatic increase in the number of quarters produced compared to previous years. Over 1.6 billion 1972 quarters were minted, which means that while they were mass-produced, most of them were put into circulation for everyday use. As you might imagine, many of these coins saw considerable wear and tear as they passed through countless hands. This is why finding a 1972 quarter in pristine, uncirculated condition is a rarity. While the overall design and composition of the 1972 quarter were similar to other coins in the Washington quarter series, it was the minting process itself that played a significant role in its appeal to collectors. The introduction of the new dies in 1972 led to some interesting and subtle variations, some of which became the focus of intense scrutiny from numismatists. These small changes, especially in the positioning of certain elements or the engraving process, resulted in several key variations of the 1972 quarter that are highly sought after by collectors today. Point 1 of the most intriguing aspects of the 1972 quarter is the possibility of discovering an example with a doubled die error. This is one of the most famous and sought-after varieties in the numismatic world, and it occurred when the coin's die was struck more than once, creating a doubling effect on certain areas of the coin's design. In the case of the 1972 quarter, this doubling effect can be seen on Washington's portrait, and it is particularly noticeable in the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." These double die errors are highly collectible, and finding one in good condition can significantly increase the value of the coin. But while the double die error is the most famous, there are other variations of the 1972 quarter that are prized by collectors. For example, the 1972 quarter was produced in both Philadelphia and Denver, and collectors have taken note of slight differences in the coin's minting, such as the design's clarity and sharpness, as well as differences in the metallic composition of the coins. Coins from certain mints, or those with particular characteristics, are always in high demand, which helps drive their value. Now, let's talk about the condition of the 1972 quarter and why it's so important for collectors. Like many coins from this era, the vast majority of 1972 quarters were circulated heavily, meaning they were exposed to wear, scratches, and discoloration. In general, these coins are relatively inexpensive, often worth only slightly more than their face value of 25 cents. However, the value of a 1972 quarter can skyrocket if it's in uncirculated or near mint condition. Uncirculated 1972 quarters, especially those without any signs of wear and with sharp, clean features, are highly prized by collectors. The coin's design, especially Washington's profile and the eagle on the reverse, is far more noticeable and appealing in high-quality examples. Collectors are always on the lookout for these pristine versions of the coin, and they are willing to pay a premium for them. As with all rare coins, the 1972 quarter's value is heavily influenced by its rarity, condition, and the presence of any unique characteristics or errors. For example, the presence of the double die error mentioned earlier can make the coin exponentially more valuable. A 1972 quarter with a strong double die effect can be worth thousands of dollars, with the most well-preserved examples commanding top prices in auctions. Now, you may be wondering, just how much can a 1972 quarter be worth? Well, as with many rare and collectible coins, the value depends on several factors, including the coin's condition, its minting variation, and whether it has any rare features, like the double die error. In general, a standard 1972 quarter in good condition is worth just a few dollars above face value, but when you factor in the rarity and quality of an uncirculated coin or one with a minting error, the price increases significantly. In fact, the highest quality 1972 quarters with a strong double die error can fetch staggering sums. Some of the finest examples of these coins have been known to sell for as much as $54,000 at auction. Yes, that's right, this humble 25-cent coin can be worth an astonishing $54,000 if it's in the right condition and features the coveted double die error. So, if you happen to have a 1972 quarter in your collection or find one tucked away in an old jar of change, it might be worth taking a closer look. If the coin shows signs of a double die error or is in mint condition, you could be holding on to a rare treasure that could change your life. The 1972 quarter may seem like just another coin at first glance, but it's a perfect example of how small details and historical context can turn a simple piece of currency into a valuable collector's item. Top 4, we have an exciting story about a quarter that holds much more than just its face value. We're talking about the United States quarter dollar from 1974, a coin that, on the surface, might seem ordinary, but in reality, has an intriguing history and incredible value for those who know how to spot it. If you're a collector or just curious about what makes certain coins so valuable, you're in for a treat, so stick with us as we explore the rich history, design, and collector appeal of this remarkable coin. Let's begin by stepping back in time to the year 1974. The United States, like much of the world, was navigating a period of political, social, and economic change. The country had just emerged from the turbulent 1960s, a decade filled with dramatic shifts in civil rights, cultural norms, and a growing sense of unrest over the Vietnam War. The 1970s began with an atmosphere of uncertainty, with inflation on the rise and a shifting political landscape following the Watergate scandal and the subsequent resignation of President Richard Nixon. Amid these national changes, the U.S. Mint continued its work of producing the nation's currency, and in 1974, the quarter dollar was still largely based on the design that had been in place for over 40 years. Washington's portrait, which had graced the coin since 1932, remained a symbol of the nation's unity and strength, while the reverse side featured the iconic bald eagle. However, it was in the details of this coin, particularly in its minting process, that things began to get interesting. In the early 1970s, the U.S. Mint faced several challenges. One of the most significant was the ongoing shortage of silver. By this time, the price of silver had been rising, and the U.S. government had to make tough decisions about how to produce its coins more efficiently. In 1965, the government had already removed silver from the quarter, dime, and half dollar, replacing it with a copper-nickel alloy. The 1974 quarter continued to use this copper-nickel composition, making it distinct from earlier quarters that had contained silver, but it wasn't just the material that made the 1974 quarter unique, it was also the minting process. While the overall design remained consistent, the production numbers were on the rise, with the U.S. Mint churning out more quarters than ever before to meet the demands of a growing economy. In fact, more than 1.5 billion 1974 quarters were produced that year across the various U.S. mints. And while that may seem like an overwhelming amount, it's worth noting that this mass production didn't prevent some interesting characteristics and variations from surfacing. Before we dive deeper into those variations, let's take a closer look at the design of the 1974 quarter. On the obverse, we see the familiar and distinguished profile of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington had become synonymous with the nation's founding, his image representing the strength and unity that had guided the country since its birth. The simplicity of Flanagan design, with Washington facing left and the inscription, Liberty, above his head, adds to the timeless appeal of the coin. Alongside his image, the words, "In God We Trust," and the year, 1974, are inscribed. The reverse side of the 1974 quarter features a familiar bald eagle, perched and clutching arrows in one talon and an olive branch in the other. This eagle, a symbol of freedom and strength, had adorned U.S. coins for decades. The eagle's majestic wings spread out over the design, with the coin's denomination, quarter dollar, inscribed along the bottom. This reverse design, which had been in place for many years, was the epitome of American ideals, representing the nation's power and resolve. However, while the design of the 1974 quarter remained largely unchanged, there were some subtle differences in the coins minted that year that make them particularly interesting to collectors. With the high demand for quarters and the mass production at the mints, some coins exhibited unique characteristics, some of which were the result of minor errors in the minting process. These variations may seem insignificant to the untrained eye, but for numismatists and avid collectors, they can be a goldmine. One of the most sought-after variations of the 1974 quarter is a subtle error called a double die strike. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned during the minting process, creating a slight doubling effect in the design. On a 1974 quarter, this doubling can sometimes be seen on Washington's profile and in the lettering, most noticeably in the word Liberty and the phrase, "In God We Trust." These double die errors are relatively rare and have become some of the most valuable and coveted coins in the world of collecting. Aside from the double die error, another feature that makes the 1974 quarter interesting is the possibility of finding coins with varying levels of sharpness in the design details. Some quarters from 1974 were struck with less than perfect dies, resulting in a softer or more worn image. Coins with sharp, clear designs are always more desirable to collectors, and those that were struck with particularly high-quality dies tend to fetch higher prices. Now, let's talk about the 1974 quarter's place in the world of coin collecting. The value of this quarter can vary widely depending on its condition, the presence of any minting errors, and its overall rarity. While most 1974 quarters in circulated condition are worth only slightly more than their face value, uncirculated coins or those with errors can be worth far more. The presence of a double die error, for example, can greatly increase the value of the coin, as these types of errors are highly prized by collectors. A 1974 quarter in pristine, uncirculated condition is always in demand, especially those with particularly sharp details and no signs of wear or tarnish. These quarters, which were carefully preserved and kept out of circulation, are the true treasures of the 1974 series. Coins that are well maintained and stored properly can command higher prices at auctions or through private sales, but the most exciting part for collectors is the potential value of a 1974 quarter with a double die error or other rare characteristics. When you find one of these coins in excellent condition, you could be holding on to something truly special. In fact, some of the highest graded 1974 quarters with doubling errors have sold for impressive amounts, reaching as much as $51,000. That's right, what was once a simple quarter worth just 25 cents could now be worth an astonishing $51,000 if it's in the right condition and features the coveted double die error. So, what does this mean for you as a collector? If you happen to come across a 1974 quarter, it's worth taking a moment to examine it carefully. Check for signs of doubling, particularly in the lettering and Washington's portrait. Look for sharp, well-defined details and avoid coins that show signs of heavy circulation or wear. A quarter that has been well preserved, especially one with a minting error or in uncirculated condition, could be worth far more than you might have imagined. In conclusion, the 1974 quarter is a great example of how small variations in design and minting can lead to a coin with tremendous collector appeal. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just starting to explore the world of coin collecting, this coin is a reminder that treasures are often hidden in plain sight. With the potential for rare errors and the history behind its production, the 1974 quarter is more than just a piece of currency, it's a piece of American history. Thank you for joining us today as we explored the 1974 United States quarter dollar. Top 5, and last rare quarter for you. We're diving deep into the fascinating world of numismatics, specifically a coin that has quietly become a hidden gem in the coin collecting community, the United States quarter dollar from 1979. At first glance, this may seem like just another year in the long-running series of Washington quarters, but trust me when I say that this coin has an intriguing history, a story behind its design, and a value that could very well surprise you. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or a curious newcomer, this video will take you on a journey through the 1979 quarter's historical context, minting details, and design features, before we reveal the remarkable value of a well-preserved specimen. Let's start by understanding the landscape of the United States in 1979. The country was in a time of transition, politically, economically, and culturally. Jimmy Carter was in the White House, facing challenges ranging from the energy crisis and high inflation to the Iranian hostage situation that gripped the nation. The 1970s were a period of reflection and recovery, as America sought to regain its footing after the tumult of the 1960s and 1970s. While the world was changing rapidly, the U.S. Mint remained focused on producing the nation's currency, ensuring that every coin that left its facilities was reflective of American ideals and history. The quarter dollar of 1979 is no exception. In fact, the 1979 coin is a fascinating point in the long history of the Washington quarter. While the design had remained largely unchanged since the 1932 introduction of the Washington quarter, featuring the iconic portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the American eagle on the reverse, 1979 marked a year of subtle but significant changes in the coin's production process. More importantly, 1979 is remembered for a number of unique coins that would later become prized by collectors, especially those with unique minting errors or features. First, let's explore the design of the 1979 quarter. On the obverse, we see the same George Washington portrait that has graced quarters for nearly 5 decades. This design, created by John Flanagan, is one of the most enduring symbols of the United States. Washington's face is profiled to the left, his countenance reflecting the wisdom and leadership that defined his presidency. Above his portrait is the inscription, Liberty, a word that resonates with American values. Below Washington's image, you'll find the date, 1979, and the motto, In God We Trust. While the obverse remained unchanged, it was the reverse of the 1979 quarter that provided some slight variations worth noting. The reverse design continued to feature the majestic American bald eagle, a symbol of strength and freedom. The eagle is depicted with wings spread wide, holding arrows and an olive branch in its talons, symbols of war and peace. Encircling the eagle is the coin's denomination, quarter dollar, along with the inscription, United States of America, above it. This design, while timeless, was produced under specific conditions in 1979 that would later prove to be key in determining the coin's rarity and value. Now, what makes the 1979 quarter so interesting from a collector's perspective? Well, like many coins from the late 1970s, the 1979 quarter experienced some unique minting challenges. One of the key factors that set the 1979 quarter apart was the shift in production from the U.S. Mint's Philadelphia facility, which produced the majority of quarters during this time, to other mints. In fact, 1979 saw an increased demand for quarters, which meant the mint was working at full capacity to keep up with the nation's need for coinage. One of the first things that collectors noticed was the appearance of a number of coins with very specific minting errors, particularly those from the Philadelphia Mint. Errors, such as double strikes and misaligned dies, became more common in the production of the 1979 quarter, making certain specimens much rarer than others. This is where the real value of the 1979 quarter begins to take shape. Coins with errors, such as the double die, have a much higher value than those produced under normal conditions. A double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned or is struck more than once, leading to a duplication of the design features. This error can often be seen on the lettering and numbers on the coin, and in the case of the 1979 quarter, the most noticeable areas are the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." For collectors, finding a 1979 quarter with this error is like discovering a hidden treasure. These coins are considered highly desirable, and their rarity makes them sought after in the numismatic community. In addition to double die errors, some 1979 quarters were produced with other minting defects, such as off-center strikes or die cracks. These errors can make certain quarters from this year far more valuable than others in the same series. A simple 1979 quarter might not seem like much, but when you start adding the layer of rarity due to minting errors, you begin to see why some collectors are willing to pay significant sums for these coins. The 1979 quarter was also part of a transitional period in the U.S. Mint's production techniques. Coin collectors and numismatists often look for slight changes in the design or production process during these periods, as they can sometimes indicate a unique or rare variant. For example, the 1979 quarters produced in Denver or San Francisco may show subtle differences in detail compared to those struck in Philadelphia. These minor variations can add to a coin's appeal, as collectors are always on the lookout for coins that stand out from the typical examples. The 1979 quarter's appeal is also driven by its overall historical context. This coin was produced at the tail end of the 1970s, a time of great change and uncertainty in the United States. The country was shifting in many ways, from the political and economic shifts brought on by the Carter administration to the rise of new global challenges. The 1979 quarter, as part of this era's coinage, reflects these larger societal transitions and serves as a snapshot of the United States during a unique moment in history. Now, let's talk about the value of the 1979 quarter. For the vast majority of 1979 quarters, the value remains fairly close to their face value, especially if they have been circulated and show signs of wear and tear. However, when you factor in coins with unique characteristics, such as the double die error, a minting flaw, or a particularly sharp and well-preserved specimen, the value of these coins can skyrocket. So, how much can a 1979 quarter be worth? A typical 1979 quarter in average condition might only be worth a few dollars, but the real excitement comes with those rare varieties. A 1979 quarter with a double die error or one in pristine, uncirculated condition can fetch impressive sums. Depending on the rarity and condition, some of the most valuable 1979 quarters have been known to sell for as much as $48,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $48,000 for a coin that, at first glance, seems like just another piece of change. So, if you happen to have a 1979 quarter in your collection, take a moment to check for any minting errors or signs of exceptional quality. You never know, you could be holding on to a coin that's worth far more than you imagined. The 1979 quarter is a prime example of how the world of coin collecting can turn an ordinary piece of currency into a priceless treasure. Thank you so much for joining us today as we explored the 1979 United States quarter dollar. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history and value of this fascinating coin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on more incredible coin discoveries. Who knows? Your next find might just be the next big numismatic treasure. Until next time, happy collecting.